Bad relationships, partying, and not giving any thought to God. And I just thought I had my life under control, and obviously I didn't. As I grew up, I was raised in a very wonderful home. I had a mother who was a Sunday school teacher, took me to church every week. Had a typical childhood, and by the time I was 12 years old, I started dabbling around with drinking with some friends, just trying to be cool and fit in. By the time I was 16, I was into full-blown drug addiction. I was spending every weekend on, using cocaine and other hard drugs, and I always wanted to be light. So graduating high school, I was pretty much in a world of mess. I spent my weekends, doing all the wrong things, wasting my life, not doing anything for God at this point. I would, try and show up for church once in a while to make my mom happy, but other than that, I wasn't thinking about God. I was in a DUI accident. It was the first DUI I'd ever had, and I never really gave much thought to drinking and driving. Ended up injuring a person who was taken to the hospital, and therefore I was charged with aggravated assault by vehicle, which is a felony, and I spent 6 months in prison for that. I was never thought I'd be suicidal, but when all that happened, I was close to suicide. It was a very low, tough time for me. I went in, I did my time. By the time I got out, I hadn't learned too much. My life got so low, I turned to selling drugs, and I ended up selling them just to my friends, which was a justification to me that I wasn't doing anything bad. And when I was 25 years old, my girlfriend at the time had gotten pregnant, and we gave birth to my first daughter. So at that point, I didn't want to be the type of father who was in prison, so I got off the drugs. I started attending church. I wasn't putting God first by any means, but I was back into church, and that's, I think, what started God growing in my heart again. My life really began to change when I started reading the Bible and getting deep into that. The more that I read the Bible, the closer I felt my relationship with God growing, which convicted me on my sin more and more. And it ended up getting me to a point where one night I was by myself in my house, and I was down on my knees, and I was just praying to God, and it just kept getting deeper and deeper in my prayer, and it got to the point where I just was crying, and I had tears were flowing. I cried and sobbed like I never cried before. It's just I felt something come over me, and as I'm praying, I just raised my hands to God, and I just prayed, God, come into my life, take me over. And as I'm in my living room praying this all by myself, I just felt this come over my body, and it was like nothing I've ever felt before. It was the best high I've ever had in my life. And there was a point when I knew that I couldn't live the life that I once lived and still, be a child of God, that I needed to give God my entire life. I'm finally living the life that I wanted to live, that I envisioned that I'd live. I'm living for God. I'm doing what's right. I'm raising my family, my children to love God and honor Him with their lives. I feel like I'm a better man. I feel like I'm a better father and husband. The relationships that I have in my life now are so much greater than anything that I once knew. It's just a great feeling to know that I got people that I can trust and people that can lean on, that can help me grow stronger in the Lord. My backstory would be my story if it wasn't for Jesus.